equations with variables on both sides. So everything we've been doing so far has just had an expression on one side, an expression on the other, but not two variables on both sides. It's always been an expression with a variable on one side and then just numbers on the other. So today we're going to have variables on both sides, and our goal is to get variables to one side, numbers to the other, so it looks like our two-step equations. So our first step, as always, is to look for parentheses. If there are parentheses, we need to distribute. If there aren't parentheses, then we don't worry about that. Step number 2, after we've done our parentheses, we are going to simplify each side. Do not cross over that equal sign. Do not cross over the equal sign. Step number 3, we want to, let me change this. We're going to move the variables to one side by zeroing them out. So we're moving anything that's a variable and attached to it. So our goal is to get it to look like our two-step equations that we had before. So we have all of the variables on one side, and there might be numbers as well, but on the other side, there's no variables. It's just numbers. So if we were to do this, I'm just going to show you step number 1. This is another perfect example of why I draw the equal sign, that line through it. Because you can see this side equals negative 11x plus 9, and so does this side. But we don't know what they equal once we replace x. So our goal is to look for parentheses. This one has no parentheses. So I'm going to skip step 1 because it's done, and I'm going to move to step 2, which says simplify each side of the expression. So for example, it would be like, pretend this side was not here. So all I'm looking at is that of negative 11x plus 9. Is there anything I can put together with negative 11x plus 9? No. So then I look at the other side. On the other side, I have negative 2x plus 45. So we have two different expressions. We have an expression on the left. We have an expression on the right, and we're seeing, is there anything on the left I can put together? No. Is there anything on the right I can put together? No. So my simplified each side, I've already done because there's nothing to do. Step number 3, we want to move our variables to one side. So our goal is to get variables or x's on one side so that it's equal to numbers on the other side. That's what we eventually want, is all x's on one side and numbers on the other. You're not bringing everything to the same side. So to do this, I need to take these two negative x's and bring them over to this side. But in order to bring them to this side, I need to zero them out. So if I had two negative x's and I put two positive x's on that side, I now have 0 x's left over here. This would be 0. But if I add 2 x's on this side, again, keeping it balanced, I need to add 2 x's on this side. And you'll notice that I put these x's right underneath the other x's because these are like terms. I'm not adding 2 x's to 9 because this is just 9, nothing with x's. So then I would have 11 negatives, 2 positive will leave me with negative 9x. I did not touch this, so I have plus 9. Those zeroed out, and so I'm left with 45 on that side. Now, you can see, if you look at this, you can see that we have a two-step equation. These are just like the ones we've been solving. We have a variable attached to a number, and we have just the number, and then on the other side, I just have one number. That's exactly what we've been solving. So now we're going to move the constant, so just the numbers, to the opposite side of the variable. So we want to move them out. So we're going to zero those out now. So we're going to move the constants, which are just our numbers, to the opposite side of the variable. You do not want them on the same side. So we're going to zero out the number, in other words. So this is where I've been having you circle your variable, anything attached to it. This is now stuck. Now that all my variables are on the same side, that is stuck. This is what I need to get rid of. I need to take these 9 and move them to this side. I can't just move them though, because it's crossing over, again, it's crossing over that line. So that will leave me with 0 there, but I still have negative 9 times x equals, I had 45, I took 9 of them away, that's going to leave me with 36. So we've gone from an 8th grade problem to a 7th grade problem to a 6th grade problem. Our last step is to isolate the variable by undoing the multiplication or division using the exact same number. So again, I bring this to here and then we would check. This is where we have lots of problems. Our goal now is to get this x all by itself. Before, I was bringing all my x's so they were on the same side. Then I moved all my numbers to the opposite side. You should never have everything on the same exact side. So again, you can see, kind of like I was talking about here. X is to one side. I only have anything attached to an x on this side, and anything that's just a number now, I've moved to the other side. So now from here, I'm saying x is being multiplied by 9. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing by the exact same number on both sides. That will give me 1, leaving me with x equals, and then negative 4. And you can plug it back in. We said that anywhere I see an x, it equals negative 4. So negative 11 times negative 4 is 44 plus 9. And then on this side, negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8 plus 45. And so we would end up with 40, 53, and 53. So that means that we did that correct because this side is equal to this side. All right, so I'm going to go through the steps as we do this. Step number 1, we look if there are parentheses and we need to distribute them. Now I'm going to erase this just so you can see as I work on it. I know that there are 2 sides to this. I have my left-hand expression, I have my right-hand expression. I also can see that I have parentheses on both sides. So first thing I need to do is distribute, not forgetting my sign in front, sign in front, sign in front. So those 2 together are going to give me 8m, and those 2 together will give me negative 2. On this side, I'm doing negative 10, and even though I can't see it, I'm going to put a 1 there, which will leave negative 10m. And then again, sign in front, negative 10 times negative 3 is positive 30 plus 4. I have not done anything other than make sure that all my parentheses are gone. Step number 2 now says simplify each side. So I'm looking at each individual side. So it's like I'm covering up this. So take your hand and cover that up. I'm doing it, but you can't see that. So this side does not exist right now. We're going to look, is there anything on this side that I can simplify? I cannot put my m's with just numbers. So this side is simplified. There's nothing I can do there. It's going to stay 8m minus 2. On this side, however, you can see that instead of saying 30 plus 4, I could just say I have 34. So I would have negative 10m, and then combining my like terms or simplifying, I would have plus 34. So now this looks very similar to the one we just did up here. So now our goal, letter B, and step 2 says move the variables to one side by zeroing them out. I really don't care whether you move them to the left or right. I prefer to keep my my variables positive. So and most of you will always just move them to the left. That's just what you like, but it doesn't matter. So on my right hand side, I have variables, but I need them all to be on the same side. So I have 10 negative m's. To move them, I have to move the m's and the number attached to it by undoing it. So right now I had 10 negative m's. If I put 10 positive m's with it, now those become 0. But if I add 10 m's to one side, I have to add 10 m's to the other side. That will leave me with 18m untouched, my minus 2 equals, and then just 34. And again, now we're back to those equations that we've been solving since the very beginning of the year. So now I'm going to, your next step says to isolate the variable. So this is where we circle our variable, anything attached to it. Because you'll notice, now I have numbers and a letter and then just numbers. That's what I'm wanting. I want it to look like our 2-step equation. So now that all my letters are together, all my variables are together, they're stuck there. So now I'm going to undo a minus 2 with a plus 2, keeping it equal on both sides. That becomes 0. I didn't touch my 18 times m, and it equals 34 plus 2 is 36. Now I need to get this variable all by itself. So right now, m is being multiplied by 18. The opposite of multiplying is dividing by the exact same number. This will give me 1, leaving me with m equals 2. And that should be your final answer.